Okay, thank you for joining us again for another high-profile Q&A. I'm Vanessa Talbot, Profile Builder for coaches and change makers. Meet Legacy, the little famous little Roo. She's taken the couch today, so unfortunately I'm on the ground, but that's okay. We can be casual today. And I have today Lorraine Hamilton, who is the Director of Coach School and also a highly accomplished coach in her own right, who you've been doing this for a fair while.
I have.
And thank you so much, Lorraine, because Lorraine is going, and I are going to talk about, and of course take questions as well from anyone who has them, on what you actually need to become a coach, because there can be a lot of confusion around that area.
There is so much confusion around that area, and it's a real, it's a challenge to give a clear answer to that question. I think it's because we're an unregulated industry, it's still very challenging, because technically you don't need anything to call yourself a coach. Yet those of us who are in the profession know that there is such a difference between someone who wants to share advice from a well-intentioned place and what coaching actually is. So I did a webinar recently, and I was researching the definition of coaching for the webinar. So the first place I went to was dictionary.com, and right there the definition of coaching is to instruct and teach, and that is not the definition or my definition of what I do. It is really not that. So yeah, what do you really need?
My definition, that one, I would be thinking instructing and teaching in that manner would be more heading into the mentoring stages.
Well, yeah, I have to split it out. I guess where a lot of people are familiar with the term coach is in a sports coaching. I guess that's where it originated from, or like a musical coach. So there's an element of teaching, but I agree. I would say that is more of a mentoring role, and I have been successful in doing this, therefore I will show you how to do it too. To me, that is mentoring. Yeah. Coaching is having a particular set of skills that you don't need to have done what your client is trying to do in order to help them get there. So it's having a strong, an unwavering belief in your client that they do know what they need to do, and that I have the skills to ask the right questions to help them come up with their own solution.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things, because I've been a coach mentor before as well as a coach, a bit of both. And one of the things I have heard a lot of the new coaches saying when they came through the traps, as they're working their way through, is I can't coach that area because I haven't had success, so I feel like in that area, so I feel like a fraud. That comes up a lot. I feel like a fraud because I can't teach how to build, a top business because I haven't done that yet. So I hear that a lot. What's your thoughts around that, Lorraine?
I think that we're in agreement on this. I think there's an argument for coaches who are fresh out of a quality coach skills training are arguably as good, if not better, than those of us who have got complacent over the years and have let some of our experience filter into becoming maybe giving opinions and advice without being invited. When you come out of a good quality coach skills program, it's a bit like driving a car, right? So I'm going to go off on a tangent here. It's a bit like driving a car. When you learn to drive, you're so focused on where all the controls are and what you need to do that the vast majority of your energy is being used up on the functional portion of driving the car. As you get more comfortable with where the controls are and how they work, you begin to have more energy and more space to use on your observation of what's going on around you. So the same thing happens in coaching, in that at the beginning we're very, very focused on what we're doing, and maybe if we're working through a model, then we're consciously working through the model. But as we get a little bit more comfortable with the model that we're using and the skills that we're using, the listening and the questioning, then that space that in the car analogy we're using for observation, we're starting to be able to use our intuition. We're picking up more of what's not being said by the client. So anybody can do that if they are confident in the functional skills portion. And that's where you don't need context to be able to, you can drive your car down the highway, or you can drive your car across the desert. The functional portion is exactly the same. It doesn't matter where you're driving your car. It doesn't matter where you take those core skills if you're confident that you know that you have the right listening skills and questioning skills to get to the root of your client's challenge.
Yeah.
You don't have to have done it.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree, because you're not there to, as a coach, to actually instruct them how to do it. As a coach, you're there for another reason, for help them to discover within themselves what they can and cannot do to some degree as well. Before we move along, Lorraine, because I've got a couple of questions, I'm just going to, because we've got a few more people that have hopped on the call, so I'm just going to let everyone know how they can actually ask their questions. So you will find that there's a chat box down the bottom here. If you move your cursor, you'll be able to see there's a chat box. If you have a question for Lorraine about how to become a coach, or what's necessary, what's not necessary as well, is something that we'll hopefully touch on as well. You can see there's a chat box. Just pop your question in there. Let me know if you want me to unmute you, because I really love it when you get to actually talk to Lorraine. Now, everyone else has got their videos off at the moment, but if you want to put your video on and join in, you are most welcome to as well. So there's lots of things you can do on this call with us. You can just watch, or you can actually come into the room with us and participate, all that you want. But if you have questions, put them in the chat box so I can see what's coming through, and then I will unmute you and you'll be able to ask Lorraine that question live, because it's better coming from your mouth than it is me trying to read it and pull it out. So just so that everyone knows, that's how we're going to do it. So one of the questions I got beforehand, oh, and by the way, everyone, yes, there are kangaroos, there's cats, there's bunnies running around, so please just don't mind any of that. As I said, we're very casual here in this room here. One of the things I've seen a lot in my group alone is questions about, I want to be a coach, what accreditation do I need? So do I need to be, with ICF or anything else? What do I actually need to be a coach?
Okay, so again, this is a great big rabbit hole that we fall into. It is my belief that accreditation and the need for accreditation is determined by your client base. So if you are if you want to be employed as a coach in an organization, there is often a requirement to have a credential from an accrediting body.
Yeah.
If you want to coach at executive level, then you may find that the organization has requirements for any coaches to be accredited by a particular body. In my experience of coaching for 11 years, I've been asked for my certification once. Now, that's not my credential, that's not my accreditation with any external body. That's just my certificate that says that I have studied coaching. And that was to coach a chairman of a financial organisation in Scotland. So once I've been asked for it. Where accreditation, I think we fall into this trap of needing accreditation when we begin as coaches, is that we think it gives us credibility. But my opinion, and it is my opinion, personal opinion, is that it gives us a badge to hide behind. Okay? I know, because I did it. You know, I joined up at that point. It was the European Coaching Institute, the Association for Coaching, the Association for NLP. I had them all. They were all on my website, and I thought, yay, why is my phone not ringing off the hook? I have all these badges. I've paid my money.
And I might jump in there too, because I've been in the game not quite as long as Lorraine, but I've done 6 years, and I will have to tell you, and my target market is by no means corporate executive at all, so I've never been in that area. Mine usually is working with individuals in some context, and in the whole 6 years, not once have I ever been asked, not only for my coaching certificate, but for any accreditations that I might have with, you know, ICF or any of the other ones that are out there. Not once. So again, I think you're spot on in saying it depends on who your market is.
Yeah. One thing I would add though is, with regards to selecting a training provider, there I think there is benefit in looking at an accredited provider, because then you have the comfort of knowing that that training has been assessed from an external perspective to be of a certain quality. And certainly for ICF, because that's where Coach School is accredited, it is not a straightforward process to have your program accredited. There are a number of things that you need to provide and document and prove, and that is on an ongoing basis. So to maintain that accreditation, it's not just you achieve it once and that's it. You have to continue to demonstrate that you're abiding by their standards. So for selecting a training provider, I would say there is benefit in looking for those that are accredited, but in my experience, for an individual coach, it's much more important that you can connect with your ideal client and demonstrate that you are the person to help them and that you understand them. That is going to get you in the door way more often than having a badge on your website that says, I've paid my money to an external body.
I have the badge on my website because I've got, you know, all the certificates and all the accreditation, and nobody even cares about that. What they're more interested in, is, you know, profile that I'm out there being seen and heard, and that I've got a message that they connect with, and also, of course, past results and past clients and word of mouth always help a lot as well. No, they don't look at that stuff, but I certainly understand about with your training, which we are going to have questions around training as well. And by the way, remember, if you are listening in, and there's a few of you listening in, remember, if you've got a question for Lorraine, just pop it in chat box, and then I can unmute you because I know that you've got a question for her, and you can ask that. So to be a coach, do you specifically need to have coach training? What's your answer? Yes or no?
No. Officially, no, you don't. You can call yourself a coach. You can just wake up one morning and go, today I think I'll be a coach. And you can. There's nothing to stop you at all.
We're very different in our industry, because you can't do that if you're like even a counsellor. You can't just wake up and decide I'm a counsellor today. And you can't wake up and say I'm a psychologist today. There's training involved, and you know, you have to do it, pass it, show it. So our industry is very different in that sense, isn't it?
It is, and I think this is where it can become quite dangerous, because if you're in a very privileged position when you're coaching someone, that there's a likely chance that you are going to trigger them in some way. And if you don't have the skills to know when you can handle that and when you're out of your depth, that's where I think it's challenging, and we would benefit from some regulation. However, in the absence of that, we have this kind of melting pot of any unregulated industry, where on one side you have people who are absolutely 100% committed to best practice and ethics, and then all the way down to people who just really want to help other people and call themselves a coach, or they find themselves in a function where they're helping other people and someone said, oh, you're a great coach, and suddenly they're a coach. Now, I choose to believe that everybody has the best of intentions. That's my choice to believe that. But in any industry, you are going to have people who are less qualified than others and have less stringent ethics than others. And I think that's where it becomes quite worrying in a sense, depending on what they're doing with clients, because we are in a privileged position. We are likely to have our clients have some sort of breakdown or breakthrough if we are doing our job correctly, and we need the backing of proper skills to handle that. And also to know when we're out of our depth and when to refer on to another professional.
Yeah, it is about this self-knowledge too, about your skills and that, because you know, I've been a coach mentor. I haven't done that for about 12 months now, but I mentored for 3 years with one of the big training institutions here in Australia. And the difference between someone who's just started their coach training and then they're attempting to coach without very much experience or training under their belt yet. It's not about so much about the experience, it's about the training. So when I first start with them, they've only just dipped their toes in their training. So their skill level is really low, and here they are attempting to coach on the other end, their client. And then I get with a client, a coach further on down the track who's had a lot more training under their belt. They're further through their course, and the difference in how they're able to handle their client, particularly when their client throws a wobbly or something, and that's not unusual in some cases. The difference in their skill set of being able to handle that effectively is quite substantial between just entering their coach training, so they haven't got much under their belt yet, and then getting more closer towards the end of it. Big difference.
Yeah. And that's a real necessary path that you need to go on to build your confidence in quite a safe environment where you've got somebody who's there to catch you if something goes wrong. Because I'm thinking back to my students this week, and they just started coaching each other this week. And all credit to her, but the client, she was just like, well, I could make something up for you to coach me on, but I've actually got this really serious problem right now that is taking up all of my time and energy, and that's what I'm going to get you to coach me on. And my poor coach student just went, but I was there so that when things started going down a path of actually this is not helpful and we're trying to solve the problem, that I was there to bring it back to staying on focus of what the coaching session was. And that is so valuable, having that real world experience and getting the feedback from a skilled mentor is the difference between an incredibly effective coach and someone who has nowhere to go if their mentoring, if their advice doesn't work for that particular client. Then what do you do? Whereas if you have that experience and those skills, then you have lots of flexibility in where you can go next with your client.
Yeah, and I remember, this is just another little personal experience tale, but I remember one of my first clients. So I had done, I was doing my coach training, but he was in a very, very bad space, and he'd spend a lot of time going, getting coached by well-meaning friends and advisors who none of them had any coach training. And in the first session with me, he sat there and he said, you know what? Nobody's ever asked me those type of questions or taken me where you have taken me today. So that showed the difference between someone who has been trained to know what to do to others who are great at listening, and great at offering advice, but don't specifically have the actual skills. So I was really made aware on that day by him, the difference in that. So for him as a client, it was a huge shift.
Yeah, and it can happen very, very quickly when you give them space and challenge, and also don't rescue them. Not rescuing your clients is the biggest gift you can give them, because they've got it inside themselves. But you can feel the difference. I've experienced coaching from someone who was not a coach by my definition of coach, and I actually ended up feeling quite abused and violated by the whole experience, because when I showed up and said, I have this block and I can't do this thing, I just got hit over the head. Well, here's what you're going to do. Bang, 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 bang. And it was like, hang on a minute. I don't really appreciate that. I expected to be led into my own self-exploration, because I know that will help me make it stick. Yeah,
there is a big difference. So when it comes to, I think we've established that it's a good idea, if you're going to enter into the coaching arena, to do some training at least. And that's, I think, is a good lead into what sort of training, if we are wanting to be a coach, or if we've started coaching but we think, I really do need to get some skills to help me there. What sort of training should that person be looking for? What's your suggestions? Because there are some big, expensive courses out there, and then there's the online, get your coach certificate in a day online. So what should we be looking for? What's ideal for us?
Okay, so total transparency, I have a coach school, so therefore, I have to make you aware of that. And I think, again, it depends very much what you want to do with your coaching. If you want to go out and set yourself up in practice as a life coach, or a coach that is going to be working with people who have specific problems and that you're going to make money from that, then I would recommend that you are doing a coaching certification that has a large practical aspect to it, that is not that easy for you to complete, that you are going to be challenged and assessed, and that you understand what is required of you. And probably be prepared for it to take you 4 to 6 months at least to complete. If you just want to learn more about coaching and then maybe use it in your existing role, you want to get a better results from your team, then you don't necessarily need a certification. Mm-hmm. Look for a training program that you can manage with your current workload, that fits your budget, and that you connect with the trainer or the school. And then if you're thinking, look, this is it, I want to build a company based on coaching, I want to become a C-level executive coach, I want to be employed by an organization in a coaching function, then maybe you're looking at getting one of the trainings that will be highly aligned with some of the external organizations like ICF. But there's a huge range depending on budget and depending on the time that it's going to take you to qualify. So it's a difficult question to say that one size fits all. Do your research. Make sure you're asking questions of the training provider to see if it's a fit for you. Is it a very spiritual training course? Maybe that's the right thing for you, or maybe you want something that's a bit more nuts and bolts. So don't be afraid to interview the training provider. Just because they say they have a slot for you doesn't mean that that's the one for you. And I talk to people quite often who have dropped $12,000-15,000 on a training course that actually they're never going to need.
Yes.
Because it's a large organization, it's a big marketing machine, and it has big overheads. Also, one other thing while I'm on this track is if you are hoping to make a business out of your coaching and your coaching skills, see what help they're going to give you, because that's arguably the larger part of your coach skills training. You can do your skills training in 4 to 6 months. If you don't have any business experience, then you're just going to be stuck. And I chose my coach training provider because they said they would help me with the business side, and they didn't. They just didn't.
Okay.
So I spent more time learning that than possibly learning the theory and the skills.
Yeah, well, I remember when I did my training, just depending on what level you went in at this particular coach training organisation was how much business that you got. So if you went in at the lower level, you just had the coach training skills, but then you got more business skills if you went in up at a much higher level. So
okay.
That's how I remember that. I remember the different levels and what you got for it. So I guess it really just pays to just really ask what it is that you're getting in the particular level or course that you're looking at.
Yeah, and make sure you know how big the classes are and how much one-to-one feedback you're going to get, because that is how you will learn. You know, you have to get that feedback on your skills so that you can grow and learn. So if you're in a great big class and you're all moving together, certainly I know that some of the schools, they still require you to do the triangle coaching. You know, you're in a group of 3 with your coaching, but maybe nobody's supervising you when you're doing that. So then you just get to learn bad habits from each other. So make sure... So, you know, make sure that if you're going to be the best coach that you can be, that you're getting some one-to-one feedback and assessment, and that you're going to get that from the trainer or from the mentors that have a lot of real-world experience. And that's another thing. It's like, check and see if the trainers have gone out and built a coaching practice on their own.
Yeah.
So then they can really speak from experience.
And talking about that, like, you know, you're talking about getting the feedback from someone, and that was my job. Part of my role, my role was to be the one that listened to the triads, as we call them, the triangles, and then give feedback to the coach. And I know how scary that was for them. You know, it's such a scary thing, because I had it done to me as well. But I can tell you, once you get that feedback and you've got a greater idea, otherwise, I can't imagine how you could learn and grow if you're not getting that feedback from someone who actually knows what they're doing or has the experience. Because I'm just looking at my own journey in being in both spots. I've been a trainee coach who got this feedback from the scariest mentors out. And then I've been the mentor who's given the feedback. So I know what it's like on both ends. And I think it's Gillian that's on the call. Gillian and I were having this discussion only on the weekend about, you know, what's necessary, the role of the mentor and how much they help. So, Jill, if you are at all keen, you can come in and share your experiences as well in being that role as being getting feedback from an experienced person who can actually help you, and then let us know how much you grew from being totally green and then to having that feedback. So if you're able to, Jill, you can pop in if you want, of course. But while we're waiting for Jill to see if she's going to pop in and do that, another thing I'd like to ask is another question that I've got sitting here, because as I said, some people who couldn't make it today have sent me some questions beforehand. Okay. I call them your coaching tools in your little coaching toolbox. Apart from your coach training, what's some of the other, so like your life coaching training, where you learn how to life coach, what's some of the other tools that we should have in our coaching toolbox? So I know a lot of people think that NLP is an absolute necessity. what's your thoughts about what's some ideal extras for your toolbox?
That's an interesting question. I don't agree that NLP is a necessity. I worked without NLP for the first year to 18 months of my coaching practice. I purely honed my existing skills and did the car analogy thing. I then was able to spend more time on sensory acuity and intuition. NLP has been helpful to me, but funnily enough, I was just having a conversation with someone this morning, and he's in the real estate industry and says that his experience is that a lot of people come in and only teach NLP in the real estate industry as a means to convince.
Yes.
And I remember when I did do my NLP training, it was very much, there's the dark side of NLP and then there's the light side of NLP. So you want to be an NLP Jedi, and not move to the dark side. So it's been helpful. I guess you don't need anything else. I would say that the core magic in coaching lies in active listening, being curious, and being able to give on target feedback and challenge. Anything else is a bonus. Timeline techniques, timeline therapy has been something that I have used extensively in my practice, but that's because my client base is open to that. So I would say anything that you want to add on top, just be aware of whether your clients are going to be receptive of what you're using with them. Solutions-focused brief therapy is another tool that is incredibly useful and can be applied to probably any set of circumstances without throwing people. I mean, even some of the NLP techniques can be a little bit off the wall to people if they're not expecting it, and suddenly you come in and swish them or you do some of those interventions. But yeah, solutions-focused coaching or brief therapy is something that has been useful. Timeline has been useful. But I guess my overwhelming answer would be it depends on your clients and what they're open to and the rapport that you've got with them, where you can take them to.
I absolutely agree. Like, I used to use the NLP a lot when I was in my previous niche market, but now that I've switched to doing what I do, I rarely touch it. So I think you're spot on. It depends on knowing your market, knowing your clients, your clientele, and is this something that they're going to want or need? So yeah, really important. I'm going to unmute you, Jill, because Jill's can just come in and share some of her experiences. I am doing this because Jill and I did have this chat the other day, and it was quite interesting. So just let me get you up.
I'm excited.
Okay, you're unmuted, Gillian. So welcome, Gillian. Meet Lorraine.
Hi, Gillian.
Lorraine, lovely to meet you.
You too.
Yeah, so my experiences were Vanessa was my first listener mentor in my triad, as we call them, and I had the client from hell. And unfortunately, we have to stay with that same client through the 9 triads, and I tried everything, and I knew I was out of my depth, but I couldn't sack her. And Vanessa, after one session, Vanessa just said to me, "Look, do you know what you really want to say to this client? What you really, really want to say?" I said, I can't say that, which was a few 4-letter words, and they said to go. And so Vanessa Vanessa then talked about, look, in the real world, you would just sack this client. And so Vanessa actually gave me permission to have that power to sack a client out in the real world. And then my next mentor came along, and she was totally different. She actually ended up failing me, and every time I was giving feedback, I took it on board and tried it at the next session. And with the second mentor, it was like, well, I tried that, but it didn't work because the client actually left the session halfway through. Well, you blah, blah. And in the end, I was really confused. At the end of it all, I was really confused because I'd had these two different experiences. It was chalk and cheese with my mentors. And for a while, my confidence dropped, and I think I actually dropped out of the course for a while and just thought maybe I'm not meant to be a coach. And then I went back to the notes that I'd taken with Vanessa, and I thought, no, she has faith in me. She wouldn't have taken this time with all the feedback to give me that feedback. So I decided, well, stuff what the other coach said. That was her opinion, and I do believe she's can be a pretty nasty. And went back and sort of signed up, and I started following Vanessa on Facebook and connected with her a lot more. And yeah, I've just had the most amazing journey, and now I'm in my own coaching business.
Oh, congratulations, and good on you for knowing in your heart what you're meant to do.
Yeah, it was an interesting experience, and it was a lot of growth for me. So having both, I think triads are fantastic. Especially when you've got mentors, and even if you've got two very different mentors, well, you don't have to hang off everywhere they say. You can take what you know is going to work for you and let the other stuff go, or find another way of doing it. If I don't think I could have found any other way with this client, as Vanessa tell you.
That's what I just want to jump in, Jill. The fact that this client was such a struggle for you, like you were just tearing your hair out. You had no clue, because Lorraine, in the beginning, they do 3 on their own, and it's not till the 4th session that they start to get a mentor. So they've done 3 on their own. You've done 3 sessions with a client that you had absolutely no clue how to handle, and then you've got a mentor, or basically 2 mentors come on, and even though we had different opinions on how she should be handled, the fact is you had somewhere to go, you had advice to use, and you had some new techniques to put into place that you probably, I would dare say, wouldn't have found that on your own without that mentoring and training from someone experienced.
What a gift it is to have the terrible client. I think it's such a gift to have the terrible client.
Didn't I say that to you time and time again? It's a gift. It's a gift.
Yeah. It is. It takes a while. And when people haven't had that yet, I'm thinking, oh, the sooner you can have the terrible client, the more, then we can start to really get into where you're going with this.
Yes.
The client was like a stuck record, because over the 9 sessions, she brought up the same thing, and she'd say, "Oh, yeah, at the end where the client says, do you think you can do this?" She always made out that, or often made out that she'd move forward in that, but no, the next week it was like Groundhog Day of session with her, because we sort of went along the same tracks, and every now and then she'd shake it up because she'd leave the session. Did she do it with you, Vanessa?
No, she never left the session. No.
Oh, okay. It was just the once with the other one, so she shook up a little bit for that.
Jill, like Lorraine said, having the client from hell is a massive shift and growth factor for you, but also you now know what you're going to do. Like Lorraine said, now if you get inkling that there's a client like that, you now have the power to make the decision. Will I work this client? Will I not? And if I do decide to work with her, I now have the power to know how to deal with her.
Yeah.
Coach training.
It was a big growth for me.
All righty. Thanks so much for sharing. As I said, Lorraine, we were having this conversation on the weekend, Gillian and I, and it was, interesting to say the least.
Yeah. Thank you, Gillian.
Oh, my pleasure.
Did you have any questions before I let you off, Jill, for Lorraine about coaching or how to coach or anything like that, or what's next? You don't have to. I just thought while you're there, if you have any, you might as well ask now before I shoot back. But if you didn't, it's okay.
One thing, do you recommend a coach has their own coach just to keep them say not a business coach, but maybe a coach that's maybe a little bit further ahead of them that can coach them on their skills?
I do recommend that. What I don't necessarily recommend though is sticking with one person. So I'm a big fan personally again of finding a coach that I can learn from in a specific area. So I'm constantly growing and I'm getting the benefit of working with a proper coach, because generally that, having had that experience before, then I want to make sure that they're going to coach me and not bang me over the head with stuff, because that's not nice. But I don't tend to work for longer than a few months with anyone in particular, because then I feel like I've learned what I need to learn from them and I'm ready for the next thing. But that's just how I work. So yes, I think we should always be working with someone, or that we should have a supervisor, because supervision is slightly different to just having a coach and working directly with a coach. And I'll work longer with a supervisor than I will with a coach for my own specific goals. But yeah, of course we need to be working with people because we know how powerful it is, right?
Yeah, and I agree with you with changing coaches from time to time, because before I got into my own coaching journey as a coach, I was being coached and my poor coach had a lot of work to do with me. I was pretty screwed up. I was in a pretty dark place, and worked with her for a long time. But now I've kind of like outgrown her. And I mean, she's a wonderful coach, but for me, I've outgrown her, so I've needed to move ahead and change and get different coaches for myself as well, and in different areas as well. She was doing life coaching, whereas I needed a bit of business coaching and other stuff. So yeah,
we as coaches, we should be trying to make ourselves redundant, right? Because we want our clients to outgrow us, so we're trying to make ourselves redundant. So it's natural that we would want that as well in our growth, that we learn from one person, then they become redundant to us and we move on to the next person.
Thank you.
I so agree, because Gillian, I've watched, like Gillian said, she was in a dark place before. I had mentored Gillian in the early days, and then she came into the Step into the Spotlight program. She's just finishing the Step into the Spotlight program, and I want Gillian now to go to her next level after that. So she's jumped and she's growing in the Spotlight program. I think she doesn't need me anymore. Now Gillian needs to go to the next level and find what she needs next. And so I'm right on with you. Like, you want to make yourself redundant, like you said, and have your client move on to the next bigger and better. Well, not so much better, but the next stage of their development. So I totally agree with you on that one. You don't want to have the same clients forever and ever and ever, because that means to me that you're not really shifting them into their next up-leveling.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And I think there's a lot of, you move into the online space and there's a lot of talk about funnels and how do you keep them and how do you upsell them and that doesn't work for my ethics and my integrity, and I want my clients to go and find what they need. And I start to get a bit worried if we're hitting 12 sessions and they're not moving on. I'm thinking, is something not right here? Because I don't want to become a crux for my clients. That's not my job. My job is to move them. Yeah.
What do you think is the number one thing that a coach needs to know, or someone who's thinking of being a coach, they're thinking of stepping into this field? What do you think is the number one thing they need to know? This is my question, just putting you on the spot. What's the number one thing you think that they need to know?
Just about anything. Gee, I'm going to have to ponder on that for a second.
Yeah, that's all right. Because I've been before. I've been asked this before, and you're like, ooh.
They need to know. I'm going to change my mind because the thing was going on in my head, but there's like fireworks going off in my head. It's like a fireworks display. It's listening. No, it's listening. It's listening. So if you can, I think they need to know that although they are the student and that they are embarking on this journey, that they are empowered at every step to develop it. I think it's very easy for us to fall into the trap of, I don't know everything and I'm keen to learn, so I'm going to accept everything from everyone. And when you're in the industry that is like ours, that it's unregulated, there are no hard and fast rules, so it can be quite difficult to navigate. So I think the number one thing is to be empowered to trust your own and trust your instincts. And not necessarily follow the path of the gurus. There you go.
Yes.
What do you reckon?
Yep. Spot on. Yeah. That's totally. That's why I said there's heaps of number one tips out there. I remember when I got asked that. You know what my number one was? Just because you've called yourself a coach doesn't mean you're going to get clients.
Yes. Oh, the whole client attraction thing's a whole nother conversation.
We won't go there. We could be there forever. I'll just check in, make sure nobody's got any other questions. It doesn't look like it. So if we want to become a coach, and I think Coach School is a great option out there. There's heaps and heaps to look at. But what do you feel if you're out there and you're looking at several different coaching training places? What do you think are probably the top 3 questions that you really need to ask of each place to make your decision?
Oh, I just wrote a blog post that's 10.
Well, give us more if you
cut it down to 3.
No, you can give us them all if you're happy to give them quickly. I just thought, what's the top 3?
So, number 1 is the program accredited?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you don't need to be an accredited coach, but is the program accredited? And if it is, for how many hours? Let me qualify that.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
If you do end up in a coach training facility that is not accredited, what does that mean for you if you actually want to get accreditation? You can't get it, can you, if you're not through an accredited? Is that true? I'm not sure there. So.
Oh, well, it depends who they are affiliated with. So you may have an accredited coach training program that's accredited with one body, but it's not recognised by another. So it's not even... Yeah, so it's not even as straightforward as it's not accredited by anyone. You may have an accredited training skills certificate, but it might not be recognised by the body that you want to be accredited by. So that in itself is quite a challenge. But if I filter it back to your initial question, which is if you find yourself in a non-accredited program, yes, you can still be accredited, certainly by some of the bodies. You can. You just have to go through what they call a portfolio path. So you have to document a lot more of what you've done and the training that you've done and how many hours of, and they will have their own, I'm thinking of ICF because I'm most familiar with ICF. They have stringent requirements on what they deem to be a coach, student trainer teaching hours are very specific about what is being taught at any one time. So you can't, for example, you can't do an NLP certification and then add it to your coach training hours. They see it as different things. So if you've gone down a path that isn't accredited with ICF, then they require you to document more hours. I think it's 125, but that's off the top of my head, and all the information's on their website. And similarly, if you go to any of the other bodies, then just be very aware of what their requirements are for your own credentialing, if you choose to do it, but also what the requirements are for the training programs. Because when I was developing another coach training program, and I started doing some due diligence about what is required for it to be accredited by the Australia-New Zealand Institute for Coaching. Mm-hmm. It's, in my opinion, the entry level. I have an accredited coaching course. It's not worth the paper it's written on. Mm. Because you don't have to teach your students how to do value solicitation or limiting beliefs. Well, I'm not sure how effective a coach you would be if you can't do those things. Mm. So be careful who accredited the course and for how many hours, because there, again, if I just use ICF as an example, there are 3 different ways that you can become credentialed. There is the ACTP, which is a full training program, and it's kind of like the short circuit way to get there. And often those courses are quite expensive. Then there's the approved coach-specific training hours course, which is what Coach School is. But the course must be accredited for a minimum of 60 hours for that to be the only coach training that you need to do in order to get your credential. So when I took over Coach School, it was only accredited for 30 hours, and now I've worked with ICF to get it up to 82.
So Coach School is accredited with ICF, is it?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is the main body in my experience. That's the main one. And I remember when I was looking, accreditation didn't even enter my head at that time. But I soon found out once I was in that school that it was all associated, well, not associated, but their accreditation had come through the ICF as well. So.
And what that means is that someone else has looked at it. They have their own set of guidelines and they have assessed that training program to meet those requirements.
Yeah.
So it gives you confidence as a prospective coach that you're going to get a level of quality in your training.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, that's the purpose of it, isn't it? To show to you as when you're shopping around that this place will teach you what you actually do need to know in comparison to another place who may not have that accreditation. So, yeah. So that's just if anyone's wondering why it's important, that's why. It's a bit of it is to some degree, a bit of a quality insurance in the fact that you should get what you need from that place.
That's right. And of course there are lots of different types of programs that are accredited. One may have a very strong wellness or sports theme through it. There might be some that are spiritual. There might be some that have a business focus, but they have to meet the basic ICF core competencies in order to be accredited. So that's one thing. So it is useful to have an accredited program at least. I'll try and do a couple of, we covered off how big are the class sizes, so making sure you know what level of individual attention you're going to get. What is required in achieving your certification? Ask what you need to do in order to get your certification, because it may be that it doesn't work for you, that you're never going to be able to do 600 hours or whatever the requirement is. Make sure that you've asked that question. You need to know how much it costs. You need to know if they have a refund policy. What else are really important that we haven't covered off?
Just while you're doing that, so nobody thinks I'm nicking off, my battery's gone low. I'm just plugging in the laptop.
And I guess the other thing is to ask for the curriculum. Ask what you're going to be learning so that you can see whether it's a fit for you. If you only want to, and it is all about making it fit for you. The coach training that I initially did way back when only had one coaching model. It only taught one coaching model. It was from someone who wrote a book and developed their own model, and this was the model. And I had nowhere else to go but use that model.
Yeah.
So it was important for me that I teach multiple models and empower my students to have their own style and their own model and their own individuality. That's the right student for me. You might be happy with just learning one model and just doing one thing. So, it's not one size fits all, and you get to choose what's right for you.
Yeah.
It's my overarching.
Yeah. I'd certainly like to see more than one model.
Yeah. Well, we have multiple models in Coach School. For
yeah,
sure.
as I said, I'd like to see I can imagine getting stuck with, just the one. Dare I say it?
Dare you? I don't know, do you?
Coach insider joke there.
Yes.
I think those who have done the training will know that particular model. Alrighty, thank you so much. I'll just check in with the people on. If you have got a question for Lorraine, we're just about to finish off. So if you have a question at all for Lorraine around, coaching, how to become a coach, what training and that you need, then just jump in now in the chat box with it and I'll unmute you. While we're doing that, Lorraine, if you could just tell us a little bit about Coach School, the intakes, how it all works, just very quickly.
Sure. So Coach School is an online coach skills training, which has 3 intakes a year. So we have another intake starting on the 10th of March. Then there will be one in June and there's one currently running. Then there'll be one in June and one in October. It's delivered with, you have a module delivered first of all, and then we have tutorials. There's a lot of teacher-student support. There's a lot of practical exercises and reflective exercises, but there's also a lot of practical coaching and lots of feedback on that. There are some of the things that set it apart from other schools that I've seen are, I have 2 strands of certification. One is the ICF version. So there are certain requirements for ICF credentialing. So if you need that, then I provide that. It means doing more practice, it means a longer coaching log, and it means having more one-to-one mentoring. And that means that you can apply to ICF through their approved coach-specific training hours path for your ICF credentialing. The other option is what I believe is absolutely necessary for you to be a competent coach. It's shorter and it costs less, because I don't believe in making everyone pay for the additional time that I need to put into the ICF version. So I've just basically removed that cost from the standard certification. It's still not easy to pass. You still will be assessed, you still have to complete the coursework, and you still have to do your coaching log and document that. So it's not an easy pass, but it is what I believe that if you complete that, you will be a competent coach. So there's those 2 options. I want to make sure that people get choice. And the other thing is that you can do the standard certification and then decide at a later date to come back to Coach School and make up the rest of it because you want to do ICF credentialing. So we're trying to make it as easy and give people as many options as possible.
So
we do multiple models. Sorry?
Yeah. So if someone came along and they had no clue whether they needed ICF accreditation or not, can they just contact you and you guide them with that or help them make that decision?
If they don't know if they need it,
then they
don't need it.
I was going to say you don't need it if you don't know that you don't need it.
Yeah, and quite often I'll have conversations with people and say, in fact, I'll get into arguments with people who say, no, I really want to do the ICF version. I go, do you really need it? It doesn't sound like you need it. No, but I really want to do it. I try and talk them out of it. But because there's no it's like you don't pay a premium to come back and do the second half if you decide to do that. You're not penalised for that. So yeah, if you don't know, then you don't need it, and do the standard certification, and you can always come back if you need to.
That's a good distinction. If you don't know it, or you don't know what it is, you don't need it.
Yeah.
So if anyone is interested in checking out Coach School, they'll be able to contact you, but you do have a website where they can check out Coach School, don't you?
I do. It's coachschool.academy, and there is lots of information there. Anything that's missing, you can reach out and speak to me, and we'll jump on a call. I want to be completely transparent and open to people. We're going to have to work together for a long time, so if we don't get along, then it's probably not a good fit.
No, it's like me too, like, because some of my programs are 6 months, and I really like to have a chat with everyone before they actually sign up. For that reason, you're with each other for a long time. Jill and Shereen know that. They're on the call now, and they know how long we've spent together. And yeah, if you're not gelling, it probably doesn't work that well. So
yeah, and again, I'd much rather that we have the best results for the students than me have a full class. Because it's going to filter through everything else. So I'm a big firm believer in your reputation is built by working with the best clients, and that's exactly the same. It's going to be better if you're working with the best students. So yeah. If we're not a good fit, that's okay.
I know.
That's okay.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Lorraine. Thank you, Gillian, too, also for sharing, and thank you for the other people that came on and played fly on the wall and just had a listen in. So I'm sure they hopefully enjoyed us having our chat and our giggle together. I will put the link. This replay will be going out, Lorraine, to everyone who registers up for High Profile Q&A, and that's quite a list there. So it'll go out to them. So I'll make sure that the link's put in there. So if anyone is interested in coach training, because you've realised, yes, I think I do need that. I personally believe, it's just my personal belief, okay, and you can, you don't have to have this belief, but my personal belief is if you're going to be a coach, get some training. It doesn't have to be everything, it doesn't have to be a 25,000 course or anything, but get some good, solid training, particularly in your basic coaching skills. Very important in my thoughts anyway.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. And the thing is, we're doing it because we want to have the best results for our clients. Well, don't you want to give them the best chance of having the best results? And you do that by having those skills and being able to deal with whatever they bring. And just some core skills training is enough to set you on that path. Yeah,
totally agree. And as I said, as a former coach mentor, and I still do some coach mentoring, but as a former one, just me seeing the shift once they start at the beginning of their training. If they had gone out and tried to coach how that they were coaching in those early days, would have been quite ineffective. And then they get turned after doing their training into some really good coaches out there. So thank you so much, Lorraine, for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you for everyone else for listening in, Jill for her questions and for sharing. And I'll see you all on our next High Profile Q&A in March. We've got a couple of guests lined up for them, so we'll send out those announcements as well. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.